Good morning. Good morning, my friends, my DLD friends. Welcome to this DLD Sync in the framework of the World Economic Forum Pioneers of Change Summit. I'm Steffi Czerny, and I founded the DLD Conference 15 years ago. I've always been on the lookout of pioneers of change, for new trends, new technologies, and especially for the people who drive them. When I started to explore the world of digital technologies, 25 years ago, beginning of the internet, there were mainly two places to go. The US, of course, and Israel. But in recent years, I find more and more cutting-edge companies and researchers, business model who work in frontier technologies. I find them even at my doorstep in Germany, and especially in my hometown, Munich. That's why we choose our topic today, Earth's Next Frontiers Visions from the Munich Ecosystem. Earth's Next Frontiers Vision from the Munich Ecosystem. You know, in volatile times, visions are crucial. They enable us to build a better future. They are call to action, and they drive us to set out to new frontiers. Exploring space is one of mankind's courageous dreams and visions. And I have to brag a little, Munich is a veritable European innovation ecosystem in this area. In a recent article in German business magazine Handelsblatt, I read that the market for commercial satellite launches is about to reach $6 billion by 2023, only 2 years away. SpaceX and Amazon are planning to launch around 15,000 commercial satellites in the next years. The market definitely looks like it has a lot of potential. This session brings together 4 players of the unique Munich space ecosystem, which consists of many more players, but these are wonderful role models and good examples. We bring a startup, an established business leader, a leading technology enabler, and an innovation and startup accelerator. We will speak about the state of play in the new space industry and about what it takes to bring the vision of space exploration to a new tangible level. So let's jump and get to know our speakers. You know, this is the concept of DLD, to make you curious to interesting people. And I encourage you, after the session, get in contact with them. Marie Langer, let's start with you. Who are you and what are you doing in the field of space technologies?
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Marie. I'm the new CEO of EOS since October 2019. We're the market leader and solution provider in industrial 3D printing for highly demanding industries and applications. So we could say that the space and new space industry is kind of our home turf, and that's why I'm, of course, very excited to be here. So EOS was founded actually 30 years ago already by my dad. He's a pioneer for the whole industrial 3D printing space. And so what I'm doing at EOS is that actually I drive the 4 most important topics from my point of view to bring this whole industry further. So it's looking at digitization, so the integration of industrial 3D printing into the whole digital value chain of production, industrialization, so really further industrialize the technology for serial production, sustainability, so combining innovation and sustainability, enabling responsible production, and thereby offering our customers competitive and sustainable solutions. We sum this up under our new purpose, responsible manufacturing. And then, of course, I look at corporate culture. So I'm very committed to positive leadership culture, to flat hierarchies, team of teams approaches, and a sustainable and digital transformation that we found ourselves in as well. So all with the vision, actually, that EOS Industrial 3D Printing will remain a technological leader while making a sustainable contribution to solving the world's major challenges. And I think today we talk about one of that, And that's why I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you, Marie. Helmut Schnenberger, my good friend Helmut. Who are you?
Hi, Steffi, and thank you for hosting this session and bringing the network globally and locally together. So that's always a great joy, Steffi. Thank you for that. So I'm Helmut Schnenberger. My passion is entrepreneurship and fostering the next generation of tech entrepreneurs. And I do this in actually 4 roles. So first of all, I'm the founder and CEO of UnternehmerTUM, which is the largest European entrepreneurship center. Second thing, I'm also the founder and one of the managing directors of UVC, UnternehmerTUM Venture Capital. We are one of the leading tech venture funds in Germany and also, for example, invested in Isar Aerospace. Third thing is I'm a professor at our university, the Technical University of Munich for Entrepreneurship. And last but not least, I'm also the vice president for entrepreneurship of the university. And what we have to do is bring together the startups, the academics, and the established companies like EOS, build a really strong ecosystem and foster the next generation to build up strong, great tech companies like Isar Aerospace.
Thank you, Helmut. So Christian Lindener, you work for a big company. What are you doing at Airbus?
Many thanks, Steffi, first of all, for the invitation to this. It feels like a little bit like a small family reunion here, a lot of familiar faces. So I joined Airbus last year in November to lead the incubators and the accelerators of Airbus, and extended this to then leading also the protospaces and various venture building and corporate venturing units within Airbus. Previously did a similar job for largest telco within Europe, and before that had the joy and pleasure to accompany Helmut when we built up tech founders within the UnternehmerTUM. Previously to that, founded myself 2 companies. So always being in the intersection between startups and corporates, and still trying to find and unlock the key on how corporates can, if they can, work with startups. Now, within Airbus, this is a very demanding, but also, I must say, the most exciting part now. And also, if you're talking about the ecosystem here in Bavaria, in Munich, it encompasses everything that actually an ecosystem needs to be valuable within Europe, within the world. It has the big corporates, it has academia, it has the startups, definitely has the VC capacities to fund the teams. So I think what we're looking at right now is only the start for really making this a hub, especially in the aerospace area, and looking forward to today's discussion. Many thanks.
Daniel, you are the startup star in the space industry.
Good morning, everyone.
Doing? Hi, Daniel.
Good morning. Thanks for having me and all of us. I'm one of the 3 co-founders and CEO of Isar Aerospace, and we build orbital launch vehicles or rockets. So our goal is really to bring small satellites cost effectively to space, to enable satellite constellations, which I guess we'll be talking a little bit about later on. And we were a spin-off from the Technical University of Munich, or in more precise, from the rocketry research group VAR, which already existed since the 1960s. So there's a lot of history in and around Munich in the entire space industry. Actually, the first global rocket company, which was completely private, was a German one. And on top of all of the heritage, we're building now Isar with a lot of know-how, a lot of experience from the industry. And we've started Isar following multiple sounding rockets and small satellite developments at the Technical University of Munich. As of today, we've grown Isar to more than 100 employees. We're privately financed and really want to bring pragmatism back into the European space industry.
Thank you, Daniel. Daniel, what drove you to found Isar?
That's a good question. So we were essentially building rocket engines and sounding rockets at the university in Munich. And then a bunch of companies came around and said, hey guys, that's really cool. Can we buy your rocket engines? And we just asked ourselves, why the heck would you want to buy rocket engines from a bunch of students, essentially? But that's really kind of what got us the first foot into the space industry. Then we took a look and saw, well, there's actually a huge spike, mostly because our potential customers, so the satellite industry, they kind of developed technologies which was widely available. And there was, again, pragmatism on the satellite industry where you would just use commercial off-the-shelf technologies to build small satellites, which you can now do for a few €100,000 instead of multiple tens of millions of euros, as we've seen over the past 20 years, for example. So we saw there was a big spike, and on the other side, we also saw that, especially the US and within Asia, there was a big push also on the governmental side. And we took a look at the European market and said, hey, if Europe wants to play a role also in the next 5 to 10 years, it's only going to happen if we actually take the rein into our own hands and really push for a commercial space industry out of Europe and enable that with the first step of making space accessible quite flexibly and also at low cost. That's how we came then to found Isar Aerospace and push for the European space industry.
Thank you, Daniel. Chris, you work for a European company, Aerospace company. What is your take on Daniel's company?
Well, I mean, not only, I mean, the heart is European, but it actually is a leading aerospace company of the world. But I'm very much proud of what we have done in not making stuff by ourselves, but also acknowledging and I think this is memorable for a giant like Airbus, to acknowledge that there are other players in the market that do a fantastic job. Right, so there is a question: why didn't Airbus come up with this idea? I mean, there's things the companies cannot do by themselves, not at that speed and with that accuracy. They should not do or they cannot do, and therefore it's pretty a viable way to then partner with companies like Isar Aerospace. I mean, they have demonstrated to build something in unimaginable speed and at a very high quality, getting good people on board to really then define what could be the future of the European space industry. So from our point of view, it's a high quality and very good product being developed there, which certainly has our blessing because we're also partnering heavily with Isar Aerospace. So it's just one proof more that what kind of things can come up here in these regions, and that startups are a valuable player in this industry. I mean, Airbus itself, 50 years ago, was a startup, right? And the values are still there. We just focus on other things and partner with other good players in the market.
And maybe I may jump in and add on Christian's comments. So I think what makes the ecosystem extremely strong is that large players like Airbus are so open to collaborate with the young startups. And Isar is a perfect example. So Airbus is not only a future customer for the launcher, but it's also an early investor and supports and advise the startup team in the early phases, and this makes it really strong. And to talk also about Christian, and Christian's also such a bridge builder because he knows both sides. So he worked at our university at UnternehmerTUM in the startup ecosystem, but now he's within this large corporation Airbus and is a perfect interface. And I think this makes an ecosystem really strong if you have all these different players working together and having strong connectors like you, Steffi, or like Christian.
Like you, Helmut.
Sure.
Yeah,
there's also a link actually to EOS. So EOS is also a very important player in this ecosystem, and has also a key role in Daniel's technology roadmap.
Marie, how did EOS discover the space topic? What was the evolution for that?
Yeah, so actually we were involved right from the start. I think that we all know that the space industry always has been very performance-centric and design-driven, and always eager to try out new approaches to really prove advanced concepts. And also the conventional space industry is dominated by long lead times. And so there were just like some challenges the industry has to overcome. And from our point of view, and I think also the members in this panel could approve to that, additive manufacturing is a perfect fit because it's really supporting performance and design-driven approaches and gives new access to other materials like copper or materials in that space. So what actually the technology could show, and also our expertise at EOS and then my colleagues could prove that it's really possible to design this complex concept, and that they could be realized without the manufacturing constraints that the industry was challenged by before, and could also reduce the lead times by actually or without not compromising on quality. And I think that's a very important step. And yeah, so right now we're I think all working on proving that we can produce reliably. And I think the next step needs to be to really manufacture bigger parts as well. And for that, we founded a company a few years ago. Our daughter company is called AMCM, who is actually customizing our biggest systems to really even enable a 1 meter print. And I think in the space industry, that's very, a challenging thing to do and a very exciting thing to realize.
Marie, can you give us a concrete example of what are you printing in this space? What is it? It's an engine? Is it? I have a combustion. What is it? What is the piece of proudness?
So we of course don't print anything. So we try to of course learn what we can print with that. But I think also Daniel and then Christian are much better counterparts to answer that question. But what we could realize is actually to print a combustion chamber with copper, and that was made possible by our daughter company AMCM, and they customized the system for that. And what we could do with this is actually moving our build time from challenging months to 70 to 100 hours for a print shop, what I think is really exciting. But I also could hand over to Daniel or Christian, and maybe they can share some more insights on what they really do with the technology and why they feel it makes so much sense to use.
Yeah, what is the most fascinating object you are proud of, Daniel? Really, what is your pet product?
I couldn't agree more, Marie. So the big advantage is just the design freedom for our engineers, where you can essentially go for way more complex product geometries or system geometries compared to classical manufacturing. So one of the good examples that Marie already gave is a rocket engine combustion chamber, which in classical manufacturing takes a few months up to years to manufacture, where you would just machine it from full blocks. You would have lots of excess materials, which you need to get rid of at the end of the day, and also just a very costly and lengthy process. On the other side, with additive manufacturing and metal additive manufacturing, we can just automate the process in the first place, and then also combine multiple hundreds different parts into one single part. So in that case, we can 3D print a rocket engine combustion chamber within a few days, go for machining afterwards, and really get towards the same result for a fraction of the cost and a fraction of the time. And if you once Google rocket engine combustion chamber, you'll realize why that is, because the geometry in itself is extremely complex. You have lots of cooling channels, which are going in multiple dimensions through the walls of the combustion chamber. So that's something where we see a very, very good fit, not just in enabling in the first place the technology per se, but also for the scalability afterwards, because the manufacturing process itself is fully automated in the machines.
Daniel, that's great. I'm listening to both of you. Sorry. Listening to both of you, I have the feeling I'm very proud on German engineering, the young generation, next gen German engineering. Christian, working for Airbus, what is German engineering means at next generation engineering means at Airbus?
I would say maybe to add up on the other question we just had, which Danny answered, what's the most fascinating technology I've seen so far in regards to 3D printing? Are morphing structures, right? We do that for wings, and they resemble like bird wings that go seamlessly over another, which you can reduce very, very much the fuel consumption of aircraft, which is a very new technology, and which things and partners like Aerospace make possible for that. Now that was answering the previous question. I mean, Germany has always been known for engineering world class, and I must see in our company, I see this every day. I mean, we have brilliant engineers. What they do, I mean, they make things fly, right? And making things fly doesn't require an accuracy of 99.99%. You have to be 100% accurate to do that, because at the end you're transporting people, and you have to be super safe for that. So just the fact that we built those flying structures is I think evidence enough that German but also European engineering is at its world class. That made possible, of course, by great institutions we have. Fantastic one in this area, obviously, is the TUM, the Center of Excellence. So I do believe, while in the last years, big German companies have come into dust, we now see a renaissance of those companies like Siemens, like BMW, that are forced to think very differently. But I think it's also the German pioneering, let's say, spirit that drives this to reinvent itself every time again. We will see in the next years how this evolves. But it's a very, very exciting point of time to be here at these companies today.
Helmut, you have just been mentioned. You run one of the most successful university entrepreneurship centers and high-tech innovation accelerators. What are the ingredients for your success? What are the ingredients to give it to a Munich Bavarian ecosystem, for example, in space? What do students learn from you?
So I think it's two things. One is the ecosystem itself, so that there are the necessary resources coming together, and the other thing is the process behind it.
What do you mean with necessary resources?
So what do you need to build a great company? It's great talent, so having people like Daniel going their way. So you need people like Daniel, then you need the right technology. So technology comes out of university, but you also need a huge infrastructure of established players like EOS providing 3D printing technology, or Airbus. So this is extremely important that you have this ecosystem. Then you need a lot of capital. So to build a company like Isar, you need venture capital companies who are willing to take the risk and go with this visionary approach Daniel and his team is pursuing. So in our ecosystem, for example, so the first VCs were our own fund, Vito. Then also another name comes in, one of the first business angels was Bülent Altan. He's also a great engineer from our university, then studied in Stanford, then was one of the first employees, engineers at SpaceX, came back to Germany, worked as a team member at Tech Founders with Christian, and now is the chairman of the advisory board of Isar, and also one of the great investors. And so this is knowledge and investment money coming into the ecosystem. And last but not least, you need also customers. So for example, you need people who want to have satellites in the orbit, and you need customers who then use all the applications running over these satellites. And so this is mainly the B2B infrastructure and the B2B ecosystem we have here, with huge players like Airbus, like Siemens, like BMW, like Allianz. So this is this ecosystem here in Munich, in southern Germany, in Europe. And what we as a university then have to do is to help people like Daniel to be extremely successful, go on their entrepreneurial journey. And so this is my main job at the university. So I have about 250 people who are helping to go this way from first idea to a scalable global company. So we have all the education programs, educating thousands of young people per year in entrepreneurship, but also in the latest technologies. We then help them to do projects, incubate, accelerate, get venture capital, and even we do the IPO training together with the German stock exchange. So this is what we do as the university. And good thing is now, after 20 years of doing this, we are extremely successful. So every week we start another high growth company like Isar Aerospace, like Lilium Aviation. And this is about 10% of the whole German tech startup deal flow. So 10% is coming only from one institution, which shows that if you do your homework at the university, you can really be successful as an entrepreneurial university.
Congratulations, Helmut. You really made some wonderful things happen. And what role does inspiration play? What is, beside all the technical knowledge, beside everything, what do you see is so crucial at Munich, at Bavaria? Is it compared, for example, to Silicon Valley? What role plays this?
So I think Silicon Valley is a great inspiration. Also, you mentioned Israel. So we collaborate with Technion, for example. So these are all great places where people come together. And I think what makes Munich quite special is, as you already mentioned, this long tradition of being a great engineering place, having a very strong environment with large universities like LMU, like TUM, having strong players, established companies like Airbus, BMW, and so on, and having the next generation. If you talk about inspiration, the biggest inspiration for our students is if folks like Daniel come back to university and tell their story to the next generation. Everybody is so enthusiastic afterwards and think, okay, what can I do? And how can I start a company and be as successful as Daniel and his co-founders?
Daniel, what a wonderful role, being a role model. How do you find?
Yeah, I think what's super important is really that whether you're at university or at any other company within the ecosystem, is that you just go out and do stuff instead of thinking too much on how X or Y might affect your ideas, your business, your team maybe. So I think the main component there is really to just go and do stuff rather than overthinking, which we unfortunately tend to do within Central Europe.
So what are you doing right now? What are you obsessed with?
Right now, I'm spending my time with smart people, which I like to do. And in general, the past few weeks or a few months, I've been really occupied with bringing in the smartest people we can possibly find to Isar. And I think it's one of the few companies who's been undergoing a massive growth the past year. Despite the pandemic, we've grown more than 4 times from 25 to now more than 100 employees overall. And there again, we're leveraging not just the German ecosystem, but also bringing in global talents. So there's people from Canada, from South Africa, from New Zealand, who move here to Munich purely to work on our rocket technology that we're developing here. And I think that's one of the biggest assets that we have within Munich. It's not just a big ecosystem, but it's also a very, very livable city. So it's always great to be within Munich. Hopefully in the next few months, again, with a little bit more of the social topics around. But it's something where we're super happy about the entire kind of life that's been presented to us here in Munich.
Good. Marie, how do you find smart people for EOS? What is the process? Or they find you?
So first yeah, I think it's both. So first of all, of course, it always helps if you have good universities, and I think Munich is very well known to have excellent universities, and yeah, the TUM is one very great example. And yeah, so a lot of them, of course, also find us, because what we also see is that a lot of, especially younger generations, they understand that additive manufacturing is a transformational approach to how we design, how we manufacture, what kind of business models we apply to the world, how do we look at production and factories in general. So AM gives really the opportunity to look more into distributed production concepts. We saw now with COVID also that this topic of more flexible and resilient supply chains came up a lot, and everybody kind of like realized, and also the more conventional thinking companies realized that AM can have a benefit there. So yeah, normally I identify, or I like to identify, and Daniel said it very well already, like the talented people. I think everyone tries to get the best people on board as possible to really drive this forward. We have the luck that since like 30 years we're there already, and of course we also have a lot of legacy when it comes about knowledge. Specifically now talking about the technology and core know-how that we have at EOS. So that's of course really exciting, but I really want to emphasize that I think it's so great, and Daniel and then is a great example with his company, that AM really gives the opportunity to rethink how we do things and really transforming whole industries. And I think the new space industry is a perfect example for that, how you can really with this technology challenge the conventional manufacturing world and prove that it can be done better, faster, and more cost efficient, and can be integrated in the whole digital value chain and the distributed production concept. So yeah, that's my take on that.
Chris, smart people are very often known to think out of the box, to think disruptively. Is Airbus still a disruptive company? It's a huge coloss. It's a conglomerate. What are you doing to develop, to get to the next disruptive steps within Airbus? How make you Airbus still fresh and alive?
I mean, let me answer that question with a very concrete example. A couple of weeks ago, my boss, actually, CTO of Airbus, among others,
wonderful, Grazia Vittadini. I love her.
Exactly, wonderful person, very inspirational leader as well, and somebody I'm learning from each and every day, I must say. Launched the moonshot per se in aerospace industry at the moment, which is what would the world look like if we would fly zero emissions in 2035, right? Now, whereas 2035 sounds like far away, I mean, it certainly is. I'm going to be more than 50 years then. I'm not that young anymore, but anyways, it sounds very, very far away, but in the aerospace industry, if you see like how programs are developed, it takes up to 10 to 15 years to develop a new program. So until then, a lot of technologies are going to be developed, but we did launch the ambition, and we're actually launching the program to really build and fly zero emissions powered by hydrogen in 2035 with 3 concepts we are developing there. So I mean, I truly believe, and this is what I see every day, that Airbus does still manage to have that disruptive spirit it had 50 years ago when it started. Despite all the challenges, I mean, it's no secret at the moment the pandemic is, I would say, the most unprecedented challenge the aerospace industry has ever suffered, and it will be a long way still going there. But I think launching then a new product that potentially will change the way we travel, the way we connect, and the way we fly, I think that speaks for itself. Now, the last years, we have also expanded our footprint with innovation centers to Shenzhen, to Silicon Valley, to tap on talent there. We do that, and I mean, it's a very easy value proposition for aerospace enthusiasts to join the company. This is not a problem, but we're also seeing that actually where we are and what we do here in the area is something we want to further explore and further expand to get the talent here. Another vehicle we just launched a couple of months ago is Airbus Urban Mobility, being in the city center of Munich, which tackles the big UAM topics, which now at the moment is a race for who develops the hardware the first, and also a very exciting field. So hydrogen technologies, UAM, I think those are 2 topics that will change drastically the way we will travel in the future.
It's fascinating listening to you. So Helmut, what would you say is urgently needed? What don't we have in this ecosystem for space in Bavaria, in Munich? What do we still need?
So I think it's a constant development, and all the ecosystems around us, as Christian mentioned, Shenzhen in China or in Silicon Valley, it's not a static ecosystem there. So and all these ecosystems are developing extremely fast, and so I think every ecosystem has to get more and more efficient, also adapt to the new topics. And one big topic, for example, is sustainability, as Christian mentioned. And so we now also have to learn all these new topics, like circular economy is one example, or another huge topic beside additive manufacturing is artificial intelligence and all the applications in the different fields. And so what we are doing as a university now to go to the next level is that we will focus on 10 technology fields and industries where we can make a difference. And these fields are, for example, like quantum computing, like robotics, like AI, but also application fields like aerospace. And we build centers of excellence in the different departments where we bring together the specific ecosystems from a technology perspective, also at infrastructure, like special test infrastructure, development infrastructure labs, and so on. And we also educate our students and researchers to really use the latest technologies from various kinds of sources. And then you have these 10 different hubs but these are not silos, but they also collaborate. For example, aerospace and AI, or robotics and agro-food. And there are so many connections. For example, you have so many satellite applications in the agro field. And so you need the specialists from the data and software field, from aerospace and from agro. And this is the next step we are approaching. And our goal as the university here is TUM Technische Universität Munich. We think there's the potential to even 10x the amount of startups and growth we can produce out of the ecosystem in the next 10 years. So this is the plan of the university, and we work really hard to pursue this goal.
I wish I would be 40 years younger. I immediately would apply to be a student with you.
Steffi, it's never too late to start an engineering course.
But it sounds fascinating. Are you agreeing with me that we answer some questions out of the audience? Can I ask you? I'm asking all of you. One of our listeners, which industry will see the biggest space-driven impact in the next 5 to 10 years? Who wants to answer?
So I want to have a general take on that, and then maybe everyone else can contribute. So I think what we all need to be aware of is, and Steffi, you touched that at the beginning of this panel, that actually every huge data-driven company or companies like Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, they look into this space initiatives. Of course, they do it from different angles. We know that Amazon is investing in companies like Blue Origin, and then also Microsoft, for example, announced that with Azure, they will be linking satellites directly to its cloud servers. So today, every big business is kind of like a tech business, because when it comes to digitization, we all have to understand how we can use that to improve how we work and how we develop products and realize products together with our customers. And I think tomorrow, every major business will be a space business, meaning that we all will rely on using space-driven infrastructure to innovate. And I think there are a lot of huge examples for that, talking about satellites and how we will then really connect space transportation services and advanced software analytics that we all only can use if we have the right infrastructure and connections to do so. So I don't want to say there's just like one company or one space that will have the biggest impact. I think it's just that we all have to understand that this will be driving us in the future, and we have to use it in a responsible way. There are a lot of great opportunities out there, and I think it needs smart and responsible organizations to shape this transformation. And when looking at the generation I'm belonging to and that are coming next after me, like being so digital driven, but also very much looking into sustainability and reasonable economy, I think, I'm really excited to find ways together with all of you how we can do that in a responsible manner.
Thank you, Marie. To me, digitalization is meanwhile like electricity. We're now entering the next steps. As you mentioned, Helmut, I think the next frontier technologies, quantum, biosynthetic, all these kind of things, they will so fundamentally change our world. And I really encourage our audience, everyone, to be aware of these massive changes we are going to face. And the four of you are on the forefront of these changes, pioneers of change, as our session is called. So, Daniel, in 5 years, an ideal world of 5 years, where's Isar rocket then?
So, first of all, maybe to just continue on what we just said, I would actually argue that already today, everyone is dependent on space. No ATM would work, no aircraft traffic would work. You wouldn't be able to use Google Maps because you wouldn't have GPS or Galileo. So already today, you're extremely dependent on space. And unfortunately, many people just don't know. Same goes probably for the bread you had this morning for breakfast, where the crop was harvested based on satellite. So there's a satellite telling when's the best time to harvest crop. And then again, so for example, the agriculture industry is one of the biggest data procurers from the space industry. In the next 5 to 10 years, when there's going to be more satellites, especially a big focus on satellite constellation, we also see another thing, which is real-time services. So essentially having lots of similar satellites at low altitudes in Earth's orbits, we see that that there's going to be a very, very big change in the communications industry. So one of the big topics I see disrupted is internet and overall 5G topics, because already by end of this year, or actually already as of today, there's the first customers on the other side of the pond, so within Americas, who are connecting to the internet directly via satellite. And that's something where I urge you to think a little bit bigger, like what would be the impact if an entire continent such as Africa could be brought online without any or with barely any ground infrastructure, or you wouldn't be needing to put copper cables into the ground. And that's really what I think as a huge game changer, where again, space is the enabler. And then there's down the road, there's a lot of impact in pretty much every single industry, may it be connectivity, may it be overall data aggregation, may it be environmental topics. The entire parameters upon which we even realize that there's climate change going on is in majority procured from space data. So there's satellites telling us actually, hey, we have climate change. And that's, I think, where we'll see a big growth. And it's also where I see Isar going towards in the future. So there will be a lot of satellite constellations that need to get access to space. And there we just really want to rethink how space is accessed in general, such that you wouldn't have to wait months or even years for bringing up your satellite into orbit, but you can essentially book your ride to orbit, same as you would book a train ride, for example, or a taxi. And thereby also extremely lowering the cost while increasing the flexibility of our customers. And I think one of the big topics is also that to make sure that everyone is aware of the dependency of space that we already have today and will grow even bigger in the next 5 to 10 years.
Wow, Daniel, that's big. Christian, I have a very concrete question for you. How do you see global cooperations progressing to drive these critical aspirational visions, centrally from Munich, Germany? How does Airbus' global presence, as well as India as a growing innovation hub, play a pivotal role here?
Thanks for this question. It actually pays on where I can answer with some concrete examples. I mean, I mentioned it briefly before, how we work in innovation, being connected to the different geographies where we are. I mean, there is an Airbus Americas, where we're also from the innovation side located in Silicon Valley. In China, we are assembling. We have one final assembly line in China where we manufacture mainly for the Chinese and the APAC market. The product we sell the most, which is the A320. And from the innovation side, we're located in Shenzhen, which is a hardware and software ecosystem of the world. So we're actually benefiting from the locations where we are by sitting in the main ecosystems of the country. Now, you mentioned India, which is interesting because we started with one of the first accelerators being located in Bangalore, which at the moment is, I would say, one of the most vibrant and most moving startup ecosystems, maybe of the world at the moment. So we're establishing that location, especially for software development, everything that is digital, also big parts of our company which are developers, are situated there. And I think that's, I see it, that's the strength of a global presence, to really be engaged with the local ecosystems and what they're best, right? And also regarding some other factors and where we can manufacture, it also gives us the flexibility. And we just saw this in the crisis on where to manufacture, how the supply chains are connected, that it gives a very high advantage. Also disadvantage when you come into supply chains being interrupted, but at the end, it's getting the most out of those locations that are best in it. And as I said before, we're focusing very much abroad, but at this very moment, we're also focusing on what can we do in the core countries where we are situated. There's a lot of space there to still thrive.
Thank you. Now a question to Helmut. What are the key services an entrepreneurship ecosystem should provide a single-person enterprise to help the founder succeed and scale up? Is Munich entrepreneurship ecosystem developed to provide such support?
So this is our daily job, and so if you're a single entrepreneur, the best thing is to find good co-founders. So this is, if you really want to build a scalable company like Isar or Lilium, you need a strong team, and even in the founding team, you need a bunch of competences, and you need a strong team. So what we help as the university and as UnternehmerTUM, as the Entrepreneurship Center, to bring together these people. So we have a lot of meeting formats, like matching platforms or events or online events where people can exchange their ideas and team up, discuss new ideas, build prototypes together, and find out if they are a good team and if it works together. For example, in the case Daniel described with Isar, it was actually a student initiative, VAR, where the students learned to collaborate and to work together and to see if they fit as a team. They were enabling themselves with the latest technology. And so this is the ecosystem we can provide as a university and as an entrepreneurship center. And then if you have a team and also a first idea, then you start the entrepreneurial journey. And the thing is, the first idea will be never your last product. So again, sorry, Daniel, again, Isar Aerospace. So Isar didn't start with the idea to launch a whole rocket, but they were really good with the rocket engine. So the first thing they were working on was the engine. And then there were many rounds, many iterations, many discussions with Vito, for example. They're one of the leading VC funds at Isar, to work on the business model. And then they came out that it's more clever not to build the engine, but to build the whole rocket. And this is the entrepreneurial process. And this is what we facilitate as the Munich ecosystem in all the different roles, like what Christian does at Airbus with the accelerator program, or for example, what Maria does with EOS, to being a sparring partner on the technology side, delivering a 3D printing technology, and then working with the team on a special application. And we as the university, we are the hub where we connect all these people, bring in the talent. And so if you're interested, just hop on our website and you see all the events. And the next big one is, I think in a few days, the 13th of November, there's the big demo day where thousands of people come together, or now online come together and pitch ideas. So be part of the ecosystem. And this is actually also what DLD does, connect people on a global level. And if you participate in these events like DLD, you will meet great people, get great inspiration, and maybe find your co-founder and build a great unicorn.
I have to say, and I'm very proud of it, we have in Munich 3 wonderful conferences. It's beside DLD, we have Bits and Pretzels, and we mentioned Vito Ventures, we have EIA9. And if you're really interested, dear audience, to come closer to our Munich ecosystem, not only to the space ecosystem, but come closer to Munich, go to these conferences, check out their websites, check out their ecosystems. We love to connect you, and we love to bring you all together. I'm very happy about this panel. For me, it's only the beginning. I think the next time, if it's allowed through the Corona things, we should really meet in real time, have a glass of wine, checking out next things. Thank you so much for this. It was a great panel. I could ask many more questions. For example, we didn't mention Europe, we didn't mention what the world needs now or next step, all these kind of things, but we will do soon. Thank you so much.
Many thanks, Steffi.
Thanks, Steffi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to be there. Bye.